Jack.
Levi.
The Book Club from Hell.
Hello everyone, this is Jack with the Book Club from Hell. Two trained killers trying to convert our specific sets of skills into social media stardom. This week's episode is on Hitman, a technical manual for independent contractors by Rex Farrell. Published in 1983 by Paladin Press, Hitman purports to be a manual on how to be a contract killer written by a successful contract killer. Despite the fact that it was actually written by a Floridian divorced mother of two, Hitman was implicated in several murders, leading to Paladin Press being the subject of several lawsuits. If you like what we're doing with this podcast and want to support us, we have a Patreon account, the link to which is in the show notes. We release bonus episodes on Patreon and have weekly chats with subscribers about our most recent episodes. I've also published a novel called Tower if you're interested in hearing more from me. And finally, we have a Discord server for this podcast on which you can find Levi, me, and plenty of other degenerates who listen to the Book Club from Hell, the link to which is, once again, in the show notes. So, if you want to start taking crime novels a little too seriously, then listen on. Enjoy. Part of me sort of feels that books that describe how to kill people or how to blow them up, how to make a suppressor at home, how to make a fertilizer bomb should be banned because there is a risk to distributing this sort of information. But at the same time, a big part of me is really glad that people like Peter Lund and Paladin Press exist, or at least Paladin Press existed because it was a casualty ultimately of publishing Hitman, a technical manual for independent contractors. But I'm glad people and organizations like that exist that are just so intransigent that will just publish stuff like this and defend themselves against people who say they shouldn't publish stuff like this. And the justification for doing so mostly seems to be, well, because I can. I'm going to do it because I can.
Yeah, there's this streak. I think it's particularly in America, although I'm sure you could find it in places like Australia as well. Of just like recalcitrance for the sake of recalcitrance.
Yeah. Here's the introduction from Wikipedia describes Paladin Press quite well. And I found Paladin Press because for the podcast, I was wanting to do a survivalist book. And I found a bunch of survivalist texts that looked good, and we really should do some. And they were all published by Paladin Press. But I quote, Paladin Press was a book publishing firm founded in 1970 by Peter Lund and Robert K. Brown. The company published non-fiction books and videos covering a wide range of specialty topics, including personal and financial freedom, survivalism and preparedness, firearms and shooting, various martial arts and self-defense, military and police tactics, investigation techniques, spying, lockpicking, sabotage, revenge, knives and knife fighting, explosives and other, quote, action topics. Though the availability of books on topics like improvised explosives has been severely curtailed in recent years.
Yeah, understandably.
So that's Paladin Press. They met their end in large part because of the publication of the subject of today's episode, Hitman, a technical manual for independent contractors. The story behind which is a large part of the reason why I picked this book. I just find it really funny. So the conceit of this text is that it is written by a professional hitman whose pseudonym is Rex Farrell. And in this book's quite short, Rex Farrell describes some of his jobs where he goes and kills someone and the ways in which he went about training himself to become a professional hitman, the tricks of the trade, how to, say, break into someone's house and shoot them in the head, how to hide the body, how to clean the crime scene so that you're not going to be found, how to do all of these things so that you can just keep killing people for money and not be found, how to find clients, how to negotiate pay for murdering someone on their behalf. All these sort of practical tips. It's practical in the same way that Ride the Tiger by Julius Evoler is practical. So, but the funny bit about this book, Oh, it's very darkly funny. So, Rex Farrell is actually a Floridian divorced mother of two who originally wrote a crime novel, and Paladin Press wanted something a bit juicier, so she rewrote it to be Hitman. And then there was a lawsuit, or a series of lawsuits, against Hitman. Because in this book, apparently she wrote it, so she was not herself a professional assassin. She got the information that she then used for Hitman. Well, first for her crime novel, and then for Hitman, what the crime novel was rewritten into, she got from watching movies, watching TV, reading crime books, reading thrillers. Yeah. And you can kind of see it just with the language used. There are terms used for guns that at least one friend of mine who's very into guns would have a fit about. Referring to magazines as clips is something that reliably gets him very, very worked up. Referring to suppressors as silencers is something that gets gun autists reliably worked up.
That's so funny. It's like
she keeps using the words that trigger people who get very autistic about firearms.
That's really funny. Yeah.
And also just like a lot of the language she uses sounds a bit like it's from a crime thriller.
Yeah.
Because
it reads like it genuinely reads like what's it called?
It reads like someone who's not part of this world. It reads like if I tried to write a book about how to professionally kill people.
Yeah. It reads like pulp thriller, crime thriller to me. That's what it reads like. And I'm kind of like I was kind of intrigued by the backstory of it. I was thinking, like, whilst I was reading it, I thought, did people really mistake this for like a legitimate instruction manual? Did that actually happen?
Especially the bit where, for me, because I feel like if I didn't know the backstory while I was reading this, I would have the question in my mind: is this serious, or is someone writing this fictionally? But I'd be kind of on the fence and going back and forth.
Yeah.
But there's this one bit near the end talking about the ideal partner for a hitman, where he, Rex Farrell, in actuality, she, this unnamed Floridian divorced mother, starts talking about the ideal romantic partner for a hitman. And that it was at that moment that I thought, no one could meaningfully take this seriously. I'd really like to talk about that bit, because that part is really funny.
Yeah.
In terms of what ended up killing Paladin Press, though, or leading to its slow demise, it was the beginning of the end, because I think Paladin Press only closed in 2018 when I think Lund died. But the Hitman saga really did put a dent in their finances. So in 1993, a triple murder was committed in Maryland by this guy, James Perry. He was sentenced to death for this. And he'd been hired by a guy called Lawrence Horn, who wanted to get the proceeds of a trust fund that resulted from his ex-wife suing a hospital over injuries to their son.
Mm.
And the families of Horn, her son Trevor, and the nurse, so these three people were killed by the hitman involved. They first tried to sue, I think, the person who actually committed the murders, but he didn't have much money. This is Paladin Press's story, at least. And so, not being able to get money from him, they decided to sue Paladin Press, saying that Paladin Press aided and abetted the murder by publishing Hitman, and they claim that Hitman inspired the assassin, or the assassin used Hitman as a guide on how to commit a triple murder. And apparently he did do a bunch of things that the book says that you should do. So, for example, in the book, they keep saying that after you shoot someone, you've got to file the barrel of your firearm so that it can't be matched to your bullets, or it can't be matched to anything at the crime scene. And like, I don't know, but maybe that works or not. Like I saw that sort of thing on CSI, but I don't know if this is real or not because I'm not in law enforcement. I'm not in the the contract killing game either. But he got caught because he used his own name at a hotel nearby. Which if you had read Hitman and you took it seriously, Rex Ferrell is very, very categorical in saying that you cannot use your own name on anything.
Whole section on it, like about using fake IDs. Yeah. That's so funny. Was that? Do you reckon that was part of Paladin Press's like defense case? They were like, no way. Like, guy, look, it says right there in the book. Hitman. Didn't read it. Yeah, rookie mistake. Would have known if he had read it. We wouldn't be here in this courtroom.
Rex Ferrell laid everything out for you in black and white. Yeah, so I think it was then in May 1999, the insurance company that Paladin Press was using agreed to settle this case out of court. Paladin Press wanted to fight it in court on First Amendment grounds because it's fucking Lund doing it. And this guy I'm really glad that people like this exist. People who just because he just wanted to. He just wanted to publish books on survivalism and firearms and fucking Hitman.
Just on principle.
He's like, no, I'll take it to court. His wounded pride meant that he wanted to fight it on First Amendment grounds, but the insurance company wouldn't let him. Like they wouldn't pay for court. So
he needed himself.
So
they
settled. They settled and agreed to destroy the remaining 700 copies of the book that Paladin Press had their possession, surrender rights that they had to publish and reproduce the work. I think there was another crime committed by Robert Vaughan Jones in 1999, and in 2000, Paladin Press was sued again as the result of Hitman, and this was settled out of court in 2002. So this book, while maybe it just is because I've read it knowing that it was written by a single mother of two, but it just doesn't feel like that serious a book. Granted, there are sections in here that I'm not going to read out on the podcast where Rex Ferrell describes how to make a suppressor at home, a disposable suppressor. There's one where he/she talks about how to make a fertilizer bomb. I'm also not going to read that out. As much as I would love to be picked up under tyrannical anti-terror legislation, I will avoid that. But there are just so many moments in this book where it does read like a pulp crime novel that I don't know how you could meaningfully take this seriously. Both if you are going to go out and kill someone on someone else's behalf, you just give Hitman a quick read and go, oh yeah, righto, I'm ready to go and kill someone for money. Or how you can sue someone for putting out this book thinking that this is going to inspire someone to go and murder someone. That someone who has never considered becoming a hitman before is going to read this book and go, you know what? I've found my calling. Not only have I found my calling, but I've found the way to establish myself in what is truly my calling of contract killing. We can talk more about censorship once we've done a run through of the book.
Yeah.
The lawsuits against this book seemed like a bit of a stretch. At least they did to me.
Yeah. Definitely. It does seem like a bit of a stretch, doesn't it? But I guess did they lost the cases or they settled, right? So they that's not really setting precedents, is it? You know, you can't. I don't know if you can use settled case that was settled out of court as like input precedents into like later cases, right? I don't know. Like you'd have to talk to like an American attorney or something. But
yeah, someone who knows what they're talking about. Not to me.
But because there's an argument to be made that like just settling it, you know, a company might just want to do that so that they're just like de-risking. That seems like the lowest risk thing to do.
That's what the insurance company wanted to do.
Yeah, and not end up.
And it's their job to calculate risks.
Yeah, yeah.
Peter Lund didn't want to. He wanted to keep going.
Yeah,
he wanted to take it to federal court, fight it on First Amendment grounds.
Yeah, that's interesting because the US does take that stuff pretty seriously. I know that they have their ups and downs with it, but at least from the outside, it seems like they take it fairly seriously, and it's the source of like a lot of contentious debate and stuff. And you have every now and then you have, like the co-founder of Hustler, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was like a big First Amendment. Like it was Hustler, like the porn magazine. There's a movie about this guy. He like was one of the big porn moguls in the US, and he took his case, I think, to like the highest court, whatever it is in the US, and like won. I'm pretty sure, if I remember the film well enough, which I can't remember. But yeah, like they do take it seriously, and then you got like all these organizations that are constantly talking about defending freedom of speech, First Amendment rights. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
So, Hitman by Rex Ferrell, there's not actually a gigantic amount to this book. Actually, before going in, so I'd never heard of this book before finding it when I was looking for survivalist books for the podcast. So, I'm assuming you hadn't heard of Hitman either before it. So in the brief moment between you finding out what the name of the book was and you starting to read it, how did you feel going into it?
I think in your text message when you suggested, you gave me like a high level, like what it was about roughly. I just thought, well, one, is it actually an actual instruction manual, which, as we've already revealed, is kind of questionable whether or not you should actually regard it as an instruction manual. Because if it's just made up, if it's made up by somebody who never actually did any of those things, and like they're just making stuff, and it's like there's interwoven short stories, because it really
the short stories are really funny.
Yeah, so if it weren't for that, I don't know, like I probably don't want to read or like download a book that is actually like banned in Australia at the moment, that is associated with like constructing munitions or weapons of any sort. It just seems like I'd be inviting way too much trouble into my life doing that. So if I actually thought it was like legit, I probably wouldn't have said yes until like, I don't know, I was like living in the US or something, and I knew I was like had more freedom. Yeah, but what did you reckon?
So part of the reason why I looked for a book like this was because we've done a few episodes that left both of us pretty drained, like Turner Diaries, Selective Breeding, and The Birth of Philosophy. So I wanted something that would be just silly or sillier. And the story behind this book struck me as good for a silly episode. Like a woman who is not involved in contract killing, writing a book on how to be a contract killer based on her real appreciation of crime novels and TV shows, which was then allegedly part of a series of actual contract killings, is life imitating art, imitating life in the most fantastic way. So I was somewhat apprehensive because I was worried that there would be some sort of there'd be some sort of knowledge in here that actually would be dangerous. But the thing is, look, maybe, for example, her recipe on how to make a suppressor for your AR-7 at home works well. I don't know. The thing is, I just don't know how much I would trust someone who's ostensibly never done any of these things with the sort of information which, if it doesn't work, is going to land me in prison or get me killed. So, So I was tentatively looking forward to it, to see how silly a book about contract killing by someone who just has nothing to do with contract killing would be. And it turns out it's very silly. It was I wouldn't say it's a great book, but it's pretty funny. So and actually, we often talk about, what was the problem situation that the author's trying to solve? That's different here, because Rex Farrell actually wanted to publish a crime novel.
That was her problem.
She'd written a crime novel, and Paladin Press said, we want something juicier. And so she rewrote it for this. So there's your problem situation. She wanted to get her crime novel published. And
why didn't she just try to get it published somewhere else?
I don't know. I can't even find this woman's name anywhere. Yeah. I can't find any information about her. So unfortunately, the only access we have to her is through the mask of Rex Farrell.
Yeah.
I don't know why she didn't just publish her crime novel elsewhere, but for whatever reason, she wanted it to be done through Paladin Press, and Paladin Press would only publish it if she changed it to be an ostensible instruction manual on how to be a hitman. Granted, it's probably much more memorable this way than if it were just another potboiler crime novel.
Yeah, well, it certainly earned itself a bit of a reputation. So,
if you believe the lawsuits, at least 2 people carried out contract killings on the basis of the information in Hitman, written by someone who, I repeat, has never killed anyone, has never sought to kill anyone for money. It's a truly bizarre story.
Yeah, I wonder about any of those other books that are like the Anarchist Cookbook and stuff. If the authors also have questionable origins for the other books, how much they're just bullshitting, or if other such books are actually written by legit guerrillas, as in guerrilla fighters or whatever.
As in the monkey.
Yeah, as in the monkey.
Written by Coco the gorilla on how to make napalm and silences.
It's just a bunch of pictures of Coco making hand symbols.
Yeah, she's just doing
Coco
sign language, telling you how to make hand grenades. Coco's telling us how to cook meth.
Yeah,
that's why they had to shut her down. This is why they had to kill Harambe.
Intimately involved with Coco.
Harambe learned the truth. He was telling us secrets about the deep state, the Clintons, George Bush, and Bill Gates. That, in addition to how to 3D print guns at home, he was signing that to crowds at the zoo, which is why they took him out.
He was the head of propaganda for Coco. The Ministry of Truth, headed up by Harambe. He and Coco
were working together. It's part of Vladimir Putin's deep intelligence operation in the United States, trying to overthrow democracy in the land of the free.
Sending us silverbacks that have that are actually sleeper agents.
Yeah, sending us literal gorillas. When I say us, I mean Americans.
And little tiny gorillas to go now.
Tiny gorilla. Oh,
tiny little gorillas.
That's a deep cut from, what was it? The Sovereign Individual episode 2.
Shout out to tiny gorillas, even if you're publishing
tiny
contraband.
So this book is structured in just a really funny way that makes it hard to take seriously, where it alternates between parts where she... I'll just refer to Rex Farrell as she, because in reality, she's a she. So where she tells you, gives sort of dry instructions. Not really dry instructions, because they're still delivered in a way that makes me think of pulp novels.
Yeah.
But instructions on
floral,
how to...
rather kind of a little bit floral.
Floral instructions on training yourself in hand-to-hand combat. The bit on how to train yourself to become a contract killer was also one of the bits where I thought, how could anyone take this seriously?
Yeah.
Where she's talking about how you need to train in hand-to-hand combat so that you respond automatically to any situation and you're a living weapon. And then she goes, and you can do this in 6 months. You can become a master hand-to-hand combatant in 6 months. You just have to train really hard. And that, I'm not sure that's the case. I'm not sure I could do 6 months of training, jump in the MMA octagon and kick the shit out of anyone in there. I'm pretty sure there's actually a lot more to it than 6 months of work.
Yeah, and like legit fighters in in like sophisticated militaries like the IDF in the US and stuff, like the SEAL team and all that sort of thing, and whatever the Australian equivalent. Like they train for a long time. Yeah, SAS. Yeah, like they train for a really long time.
Yeah, but I bet they've never read Hitman by Rex Farrell. I reckon I could take on at least 15 SEALs.
Yeah,
having read Hitman, and I've thought about it really hard. I reckon not even one at a time, just all at once. I've studied the training materials laid out in Hitman.
You've read Hitman and the Book of Five Rings, so you're probably unstoppable.
Yeah, they can have guns. If I'm allowed to have 2 katanas, I'll combine the way of strategy from Musashi with Rex Farrell's street smarts, and yeah, I would be unstoppable.
Yeah, nice.
So
cool. So what are the major sections?
It alternates between the instructional bits and then bits where they're just stories where it's just fiction. I imagine
clearly just
I reckon
snippets from the short story writing.
Yeah, the stories in this are probably just lifted straight from the novel that she wanted to publish.
She's like, I'm gonna get my novel in there.
Yeah, people are gonna read this. And the thing is, these bits aren't that good.
No.
But what elevates them is the fact that they're implicated in several murders. At
so
least
bizarre,
if you believe the court cases, someone read this story about someone wearing a hippie disguise, renting a car, using a fake ID, driving somewhere, changing into a businessman's disguise, scoping out someone, going into their house, shooting them in the head, and then leaving. And the loving description of all of the measures that this professional assassin took to cover their tracks, which she then lays out. So she gives you this little vignette about a like someone who is strongly implied to be Rex Farrell on the job, killing someone.
Yeah.
And then and she'll detail all of the little tips and tricks, the one crazy trick the law enforcement authorities don't want you to know. And she goes over all of these things, and then through the rest of the book, she explains them in more detail. So I guess from a pedagogical perspective, it's pretty good because she primes you. You hear the information for the first time in context, and then she goes through and explains later all of these different techniques. But
don't you have to, in order for a case
I just
like
don't know
that,
how someone reads this and goes, yeah, you know what? I am going to go kill someone.
Don't you have to, there's like I've been thinking, like reading up on causation and stuff recently. And there's a very big discussion, has lots of like moving parts, turns out. And it has important implications for our legal system, right? Like in order to successfully convict somebody for like it, obviously depends on like different situations and stuff, but like depends on what exactly like the case is about, all this sort of thing. But I think like the common way that they phrase it in the legal system is they ask whether or not something was a cause. They submit it to the but for test, like if but for this thing having happened, this person would now be alive. So it's like
but for Hitman by Rex Farrell.
But for the actual Hitman having read and been inspired by this novel this novel masquerading as an instruction manual by pseudonymous Hitman Rex Farrell, then our 3 victims would still be alive because just Johnny blowhard, the killer, like wouldn't have had the skills and motive to have committed the crimes.
A Floridian mother of two who just wanted to publish a crime novel that was knocked back.
It's like that's the case that they would have had to have made, basically. And I don't know how they could have possibly made that case. Like that's like if this were actually your line of work, you know, like I'm like learning how to be a software engineer, and you know, like I went to school to do that, and I still read books about software engineering. So obviously, like if you're like learning a thing, then you'll have books about the thing, you know, like the Unicorn Project. Shout out to DevOps. And they might be in the novel form. So you kind of expect like a hitman potentially to have like readings about being a hitman. So like, why wouldn't they have? My question would be like, would that person have only had one book about this thing? And if not, then what about all the other books that like hitmen read? Are they not getting sued every which way? Or is it just like, this is a particularly easy one to pin on Paladin Press because it's literally in the name? So like, well,
yeah, I can't say I've looked deeply into the literature around how to be a contract killer because it's just never been a vocation that's spoken to me. But maybe it's just an underserved market. Maybe there aren't actually many. Maybe there's, you know, programmers have the pragmatic programmer. There is no the pragmatic hitman. Maybe this is the best they've got.
Yeah, I suppose that it would be hard to get it published.
It depends who you go to, because Paladin Press has it's almost the opposite of what most publishers want. If you go to a normal publisher and go, look, I've got a book about where I give instructions on how to kill people, and they're going to go, yeah, you know what? Maybe dial it back. Maybe you can turn it into a realistic crime novel. You go, okay, look, I'll make a novel out of it. Or you come to Paladin Press and say, listen, I've got a crime novel, and they give it a read and go, you know what the public really wants? Could you put a bit into this on how to make a fertilizer bomb?
Oh, that's so cooked. You're like Paladin Press were just asking for trouble. Like that's like seeing a wasp nest and then like be like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna like bat it with my broomstick.
Yeah.
Like,
and then I'm just gonna stand there underneath it.
Yeah. Just all right, man. Yeah, have fun with that.
Look, I think probably from what little I know, the case against Paladin seems to be reaching, but at the same time, they were asking for it. Like they were really asking for it. I'm not going to go ahead and say they are completely innocent in this. They were, like, if not in this case, then with all of the other stuff they've published, because they have published manuals on how to make bombs at home and things like that before. If it weren't Hitman, it would have been something else.
Yeah, eventually, yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I want to quote something from the preface, which I want listeners to bear in mind that this was written by a Floridian mother of two who just wanted to publish a crime novel. I quote, "How many times have you shared a few beers with a group of macho buddies who eventually turned the subject of conversation from women and sports to that of guns, ammunition, wars, and the killing?" And just as an aside, this is just obviously not written by a man who has conversations with other men. This sounds like someone who's trying to imagine what men often talk about. Hey Jack, what do you normally talk about with your male buddies? Well, often start talking about women and sports. But after a while, we always get around to talking about guns, ammunition, wars, and killing. It's just the natural progression of every conversation. Anyway, I continue. "It seems that almost every man harbours a fantasy of living the life of Mac Bolan or some other fictional hero who kills for fun and profit. They dream of living by their reflexes, of doing whatever is necessary without regard to moral or legal restrictions, but few have the courage or knowledge to make that dream a reality. When the bragging and boasting starts, I just sit back and smile as one after the other talks of what he would do and how he would be if it weren't for family obligations, mortgages, and corporate jobs. So, again, just imagine reading this. This is right at the start of the book that you are reading, which is about to convince you to commit a triple murder. And I just don't see it. I just don't see how this is what tips you over into becoming a multi-murderer.
I love this part that, like, just in particular, like, of the part that you read out when she says, "How many times have you shared a few beers with a group of macho buddies?" It's like, the way that I don't believe I've ever referred to any group of men as macho buddies.
You've just outed yourself as someone who's not one of us.
Like, sitting around being macho, man, just talking about killing and shit.
Just talking about women, war, bullets, killing, sport.
Yeah.
She didn't even include barbecues, which obviously is a staple of male conversation.
Or like smoking stuff, slow
Fishing.
cookers. Yeah, fishing.
Slow cookers. Cookers.
I fucking love slow cookers. Yeah, you see, like, that's what macho men talk about is how to eat healthily on a time
An air fryer
schedule. Yeah, air fryer. That's right. So, like, I don't know. Like, already, Spidey senses a tingling that this is not, in fact, written by a legit person who actually knows what they're talking about.
I'm beginning to think that Rex Feral might not be the author's real name. There's also... I'm probably just going to, like, run through chapters and mention the funny bits because there's no central thesis of this book beyond...
No.
Wouldn't it be cool to be a hitman? As a thought exercise. Yeah. I like, from chapter 1, the beginning, she calls hitmen mechanics. I don't know if they refer to themselves this way professionally, but I know in a number of shit movies I've seen, people will refer to a contract killer as a mechanic.
Yeah.
I also like, so this part is about how you physically and mentally prepare for becoming a hitman. And the way hitmen are presented, they're presented like these elite soldiers, these living weapons. They're just they're the best of the best, physically, mentally. But how you get to that point only takes like 6 months or something, and it largely consists in reading articles about weapons and techniques in magazines like Soldier of Fortune. Studying your local newspaper for jobs. So she gives some examples. She says, okay, we'll look for headlines about people who've been arrested for contract killing, and you learn from their mistakes. Learn what they did wrong. You look for stories about people who've been caught dealing drugs, because they might be worth contacting, because they might want to kill witnesses.
Hold on. Just we should note the irony of, like, the looking out for news stories for the mistakes that others have made when being a hitman, because one of the things that you'd notice is that they were caught with the book Hitman, and it was a dead giveaway.
Exactly.
Like, don't get caught reading this book.
Yeah, you got to memorize this book and then burn it. Oh yeah, you got to be really fit. You can't drink or smoke much. Completely abstain from illicit drugs. Get trained in hand-to-hand combat. She says you want to be trained by veterans with wartime experience, because your local karate club isn't going to teach you what you need to know about killing people. She also says you got to befriend veterans, because oftentimes they stockpile weapons and explosives. And if they have guerrilla war experience, they can be a great source of information. And if you get to know them well enough, they might even help you kill someone. This is just what veterans do.
I'm not even sure that she's met many veterans. Seems like... I gotta
say, all of the veterans I know are stockpiling illegal weapons. Can't wait to get killing again.
Yeah, most of the veterans that I've met just seem like they really need a good therapist, and
Yeah,
like
most of the ones, like the
and
few I
like
know,
a little
just
bit
seem
more like financial support
burned out.
for having like gone to the front line of a war or something. Like, not they're not like eager to go around killing civilians in their own country, which they like served. But maybe
But you never know.
it's like I put my life on the line and I lost my brothers in arms to protect your freedoms, and now I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, but
Because
Levi,
some
remember
guy
they
paid me.
can sense that you don't have the killer instinct, because they've all probably read Hitman by Rex Ferrell, and they've gotten really good at noticing things. Because there's this really good bit where she says you've just got to get good at noticing stuff, and she calls it observational training. Says, look, hitmen just notice stuff really well. Their senses are wide open. They're noticing everything. You can't get anything past them. So you've got to develop this skill too. And you develop this by just trying to notice as many things as you can. This is, again, I just don't know how you take this seriously as an instruction manual when it gets to things that are this incredibly vague. It's like, well, just fucking notice everything around you. You get better at it. It's just a skill, mate.
You just like it's just like you don't discriminate against
like a sponge, soaking in information.
No discrimination against any of the sensory input. You make no no prioritization of sensory input. It's just all equally important all at the same time.
Yeah.
Walk into a cafe, knows every little detail.
I'm sense agnostic. Yeah, you're trying to order a coffee, and you're concentrating equally on the feeling of your toes in your socks as you are speaking to the cashier. You're just completely plugged in to the sensory world.
What do you? So why are you okay? Are you like you look kind of absent there? So it's like.
You look like you've just taken some sort of psychedelic substance, and you actually are in the state of being open to every experience equally.
No.
Which,
I don't
funnily
take
enough,
drugs.
is not very good for killing people.
I'm observationally training. I'm noticing everything right now in this Starbucks.
Maybe the observational training just is taking 9 grams of dried mushrooms every Sunday. Just really getting into that headspace.
Terrence McKenna was actually a trained contract killer.
Yeah, just take a standard McKenna of mushrooms at regular intervals, and you'll get really well observationally trained.
Rex Ferrell is actually just a pseudonym for Terrence McKenna.
Terrence McKenna wrote Hitman by Rex Ferrell. I really like she has a section called First Class Mechanic Requirements. So the first is expert marksmanship. You can, that's easy. Just you develop that in a few months. Just go and shoot off a few guns, whatever. No worries. Thorough knowledge and respect for all weapons. I'm assuming she means not only guns and stuff, but also like nunchucks.
All weapons. All
throwing
weapons.
stars. Yeah, all weapons.
Broadsword.
You actually, you have to
Battle
get
axe.
with a claymore.
Mace.
You have to exhaustively iterate through every weapon ever, just in case. What happens if you're on a job, you're trying to kill someone, your AR-7, because she says you just got to use an AR-7 for everything. Fine, whatever. Your AR-7 jams, you have to throw it away. You pull out your pistol, that jams, oh shit, you throw it away. You pull out your knife, the blade falls off, shit, you throw it away. You see in the corner of the room that your mark is trapped in, you see a crossbow with some bolts behind it, with some bolts beside it. If you haven't mastered every weapon, then
in 6
you're
months.
fucked. But if you read Hitman and you knew that knowledge of how to operate a crossbow could save your life, you're gonna run over to that crossbow, you're gonna knock that bolt, and you're gonna blow away, or whatever the verb is for a crossbow, your mark.
Yeah,
and you'll be fine.
And it's important
because you read Hitman,
and it's really important. Like when we say every weapon, we need every single weapon. So like, like when you run over into the corner and you pull the crossbow off the wall and you realize, oh, it's ornamental, it doesn't actually work. That's all right, because at the end of the day, you can always fall back on your handy pocket F-16 fighter jet. pull it out from your boot pocket, jump in that motherfucker, and then just like launch some like just massive missiles at your opponent. I know, like,
and you're gonna have to know how to operate all of those different missiles. Like, you better be completely up to date on every type of missile
and
that can be
it's
fitted
very
into an
important
F-16.
that you have the physical fitness to be able to carry around an F-16 fighter jet in your socket, in your sock. It's very important.
Yeah, well, not just an F-16 too, because what if...
also, like,
I mean, I'm
B-52.
I'm not a hitman, so I don't know why you would use different types of fighter jets, but what if you get to where your mark is and they've got a bunch of Russian fighter jets?
Yeah.
It's like, shit, I've only trained on American ones.
And not just every...
But what then?
Not just every factual real-world weapon, every fictional weapon as well, including an AT-AT.
What if the Needler from Halo 2 shows up? You better know how to operate one of those things.
One of the energy blades from Halo. Man, so satisfying. There are few things in this world as satisfying as just shunting a motherfucker
Halo
in the back with an energy sword. Oh my god. Yeah, so if you're a real bona fide hitman, you need to also learn all of the Halo universe weapons.
Yeah, you actually need to know how to use all fictional weapons.
All of the Gears of War weapons.
I've been playing Armored Core 6, and you better know how to operate a mech suit the size of an apartment block as well, just in case.
You better know all of them.
From every Armored Core game.
Have you ever seen Appleseed Ex Machina? This is like OG, like these Japanese manga films with like these giant robots. They're kind of like mech suits, except they're the size of like skyscrapers.
Yeah, but you better know how to use those. Because when she says knowledge and respect for all weapons, so it's not just that you know how to operate the giant mech suit, but you better respect that mech suit. You better not treat that thing like a toy.
And if you thought you were getting off by just knowing all factual weapons and all fictional weapons, no, you have to know all physically possible weapons, which may or may not be infinitely innumerable, but that's beside the point. If you want to be safe in any situation as a hitman, that's what you need to do. All physically possible weapons, even ones that haven't been imagined yet.
And so I want to put this together with another point in first class mechanic requirements. So knowledge and ability of hand-to-hand combat. So if you combine this with thorough knowledge and respect for all weapons, then you should know how to perform hand-to-hand combat in non-human bodies. Shouldn't you? Because if your hands are weapons, what if you are inhabiting a non-human body? What if you're a bear?
What if
you are fighting a druid and they transform you into a bear or some sort of...
Or if you just want to astrally
You've got to know how to fight. You're a hitman. You've got to keep going.
You want to astrally project into some dolphins and then stop the president of France from destroying the world. You better have figured out fin-to-fin combat.
Yeah. What if you're trying to, using image transformation, convince Jacques Chirac to stop French nuclear weapons testing in the Pacific, and there are some dolphins trying to stop you? Shout out to Ilona Selka.
What if you want to astrally project into like another dimension and go have hand-to-hand combat with Gopal Dal, whatever his name was, the Indian guru, and you want to have ethereal astral projection hand-to-hand combat. Do you know how to do that?
Because
with
these projections, actually, it is a combinatorial explosion of things that you need to know how to do. Because even if you're just considering projecting into other dimensions, I mean, how many possible dimensions are there? You could have an infinite number of bodies that you need to know how to fight using, just with hand-to-hand combat.
You need to be able to astrally project into another dimension as a bear and know how to fly an F-16 fighter jet.
Oh, shit. So you've got conceivably an infinitely high number of dimensions you have to be able to project into, combined with an infinitely high number of beings
that you could inhabit.
What if you have to be a 216-dimensional proboscis monkey? Like, you're just astrally projecting that. What then?
What if
you've read Hitman by Rex Ferrell, you'll be prepared, which is why this book is dangerous and should be banned.
What if you need to transmogrify your body into that of a tardigrade and have freaky space hand-to-hand combat on the outside of like the International Space Station? You know?
Exactly.
Can you do that? Can you do that right now? I bet you can't.
I bet you can't. I bet you couldn't do it using the energy sword from Halo 3 as a tardigrade on the ISS.
A little tardigrade with an energy sword and a needler.
The funniest bit of the first class mechanic requirements, and this just keeps coming up, is common sense. And it just keeps coming back to this where she'll give really vague advice and then say, but look, you've got to hone your common sense and just apply common sense. Yeah. Which I would kind of like to say, look, I've never killed anyone. Yeah, I don't like my common sense doesn't necessarily apply to situations in which I need to murder people for money. I'm coming to you to develop my common sense when it comes to killing people. So just telling me to have common sense doesn't help.
Yeah, it's like there's like a grandma or a nonna or something, just come on, have some common sense. Like, what are you doing? Don't bloody ride around the streets without your helmet on. You never know. What if you fall off your bike? It's like, what if you want to go and take out a target and it turns out they're tardigrade.
You're not wearing gloves to cover your fingerprints.
Gloves, and you have a copy of Hitman on your passenger seat car in which you've registered your actual name. There's just common sense.
When Grandma pulls out the wooden spoon to teach you some lessons. Anyway, the next section is on equipment, where she tells you what you need. You've got like your core equipment in your duffel bag that you always need. And then there are kind of concentric circles out from that of things that are nice to have, but you don't have to have them. Anyway, some of the big ones and I think this is one of the things that was used as evidence in court for why Hitman inspired the triple murder, was because the murderer used an AR-7 rifle, which Rex Ferrell says is the best thing to use for your jobs. That's what you want. It's what you want.
Yep.
I had a look at it.
It's just one. Don't want a sawn off. No good.
Like, I think it fires. It's 22 caliber, so it shoots little bullets. But I guess if you're not shooting people, if you don't expect people to have body armor on, then it probably doesn't matter. It's this rifle where you can like disassemble it and put everything into the stock, so it's easy to carry around. This is the bit where I felt like sending sections to my gun friend, because not only does she refer to a suppressor as a silencer, but she refers to magazines as clips, and both of these things reliably get this guy worked up. And it was just more moments when I thought, like, if I do not know much about guns, but if even I can see this and think, I don't know how many times you've been shooting, then probably someone who was already inclined to go and shoot people would also be suspicious.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm an Australian with no experience with guns other than what I've played on video games, so she probably could have said anything to me and I would have been like, all right, whatever.
Sure.
Maybe rifles from like the farm. Like, that's like the only types of guns I've seen is like ones that you'd see on like a farmer's on a farm to like shoot kangaroos and stuff.
Fortunately, my grandparents had a farm, and when I was a teenager and I went there, I was allowed to have a go with them.
Yeah.
That was my introduction to firearms. It's my grandparents being semi-negligent.
It's important. If you're out on a farm, you need to know how to use a rifle.
They were responsible because they got me to start off with my grandmother's 8-gauge ladies shotgun before I was let loose with the 12-gauge.
The good old days. I think too soft on kids these days, not giving them a sawed off or whatever. As soon as they come out, here, take this. No, I think it's pretty reasonable to like need a rifle on like a property, especially if you're mustering cattle or anything like that. You never know.
Yeah,
for sure. I don't know. I guess like
Anyway, there's a bunch of advice on how to modify your gun so it can't be traced back to you. Recommends using semi-automatic pistols rather than revolvers because she says that the open cylinder sprays the shooter with powder, which can be used by law enforcement. Like if they test you for it, I don't know. Like I don't know. I guess sure,
maybe.
In my professional opinion, this checks out. Yeah.
I'm really putting my career as a professional hitman. Like, I'm taking a lot of responsibility, this book is. She might have actually affected somebody's career decisions.
Exactly. Well, it's like if you've written a textbook, say, on general surgery. You want to make sure the information in it's really good because people are going to be using this professionally. And Rex Feral has a brand to uphold, has a name to uphold.
Could you imagine if somebody tried to like write the analog of Hitman, but for cardiovascular surgeons or something? Like they'd never actually been a cardiovascular surgeon. And they just,
Cardiothoracic Basics by Rex Feral, by Mr. Rex Feral,
Dr. Rex Feral. Thank you very much.
Oh no, Rex Feral's a surgeon. He's not a doctor. It's a Mister. Thank you. I think it's different in the United States where surgeons are doctor as well, but in Australia, and I think it's the same in the United Kingdom. It's this really funny inverse snobbery because surgeons used to be associated with barbers and bloodletting, and it wasn't considered to be as prestigious as being a doctor. And that has been retained where in Australia, you get your medical degree, you become a doctor. When you become a surgeon, when you complete your training as a surgeon, you become Mr. or Ms. again.
Yeah.
You go back from being doctor. And so in the hospital, when you see, it's like Mr. XYZ is the treating doctor, it's a surgeon.
Yeah, right.
So it's
it's funny.
I guess Rex Ferrell's American, so it would be Dr. Ferrell. But were this an Australian cardiothoracic surgeon writing the hitman of cardiothoracic surgery, Mr. Rex Ferrell?
Yeah.
And he would get very shitty if you called him doctor, which surgeons do, which is really funny. Anyway, there's stuff about like the stuff you need. It's like stuff to kill people with. Disguises are optional but highly recommended. You need gloves to cover your fingerprints. You need handcuffs in case you need to handcuff someone and interrogate them. A knife, because it's like common sense stuff. You just think about it, and this stuff's obvious.
A magic school bus so that you can transform into a tiny little version of yourself and fly into their brain and then cause an aneurysm.
Oh, I remember that episode. That was when they went into the human body in the tiny magic school bus. Yeah, that was a
if
brilliant
you got one
episode.
of those on you.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful as a
if you can swing it, if it can be conceivably used as a weapon, which it would be, you just like send that magic school bus into their mouth and then make it bus size from their stomach. So actually that could qualify as a weapon. So you should have knowledge and respect for magic school buses.
So could you say that anything? Well, this is like any object that could conceivably be interpreted as a weapon. Like that's functionalism 101. Exactly it's like saying. That stool, weapon.
So you have a potentially infinite number of things that you need to know how to use and respect.
You need to know how to use like the planet Mars as a weapon. Deflect Mars.
What if you need to slam Mars into the precise location on Earth to kill your target? Because that's what your employer has specified.
What if your target is the Earth and all of human civilization? What are you going to do then?
Yeah, well, you're a professional. This is why they come to the best. This is why you earn the big bucks.
Yeah.
Lock picking. She recommends an air gun for distraction. I'm assuming it's like a BB gun or something. She says it's good for distractions.
Yeah.
Sure. Rope. 6 meters of rope. 20 feet in burger units.
Preferably
preferably
elven rope, so you can just like ting ting get it back straight away.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Really helpful.
Luxury items. This is when you've got a bit more cash. This is when you're like us and you're good at your job. You have tons of money from all that contract killing we've been doing to fund the hosting fees for the book club from hell. You can get automatic weapons, grenades, advanced surveillance equipment, cars, planes, fake IDs, bribes. The luxury items feels like that point in every GTA game where money just becomes meaningless because you've bought all the best guns. And that's in your Hitman life cycle. That's when you get these luxury items where you're just using stupid equipment because you paid some in-game money for it and you want to see what it does. You feel kind of bad not using it because someone went and made the models for it, the textures, did the animations, and you think, well, may as well, someone's put the work in. There's a section on the disposable silencer which I'm not going to read out because as much as I'd love this podcast to get banned because I've read out instructions on how to make a weapon on air, I'll probably avoid that. I think that's that's tempting a ban too much.
You're being silenced, Jack.
I'm being
silenced by the powers that be.
I'm being silenced by silence.
By they. Yeah, nice.
Capital T them don't want me to tell everyone about how to build at home what Rex Ferrell says is one of the most important bits of a Hitman's toolkit, which is a suppressor. A suppressor that is cheap and easy to make, so cheap and easy that you can destroy it after every job, which you should do. Everything you take on a job, you should consider to be disposable because it can all be linked back to you.
Including your magic school bus.
Including the magic school. You're going to have to disassemble and destroy the magic school bus, I'm afraid. Which... It's a magic school bus. You could probably make it so small that no one's going to find it. You might not need to destroy it. If you just make it the size of an atom...
Can it reassemble itself? Like, can the magic school bus reassemble itself? Or, like, once you've taken apart, does it lose its ability? I don't
remember the precise
magic
abilities of the magic school bus because I last watched it when I was probably 5 or 6. But assuming that it can reassemble itself, it might actually be a liability. In which case, if you have sufficient respect for the weapon of the magic school bus and its abilities, then you probably wouldn't use it because you would be aware of its potential to reassemble and make itself into evidence which could be used against
and it's also sentient. It's a sentient magic school bus, so maybe it'll also be like
that's right. So it could talk.
Yeah, it could talk. Yeah. What if
could it show up as a witness in court?
Could the magic school bus testify against you? If so,
are you gonna need to give the magic school bus 2 behind the ear after the job, tearfully shoot it in the back of the head to stop it from talking and giving you Will an AR-7 be enough to kill the magic school bus?
Will you need to,
if it came to
recruit another magical object from a different fantasy universe to take on the... and if so, like such as like Aladdin's magic carpet, then... And is the magic carpet sentient? You really only want to rely upon non-sentient weapon objects to take on the magic school bus. I mean, that's a formidable enemy, the magic school bus. You want to... I mean, I'd be scared.
You hope you're never paid to kill the magic school bus. You hope that the magic school bus only remains one of the infinite number of weapons that you need to be acquainted with. Actually, the more I consider this book, the stupider it gets. Okay, there's the section to kill a rabbit where she talks about different ways to kill people. I'm quite happy reading this bit out on the podcast because it's so vague. She says, arson, pretty good way to kill someone and make it look like an accident. She says you need to know how to start a fire to make it look accidental. Actually, she does give some specifics, which I probably won't say here. But look, if people desperately want to burn down a house and make it look like an accident, there is a resource online that you can find. My one warning is it was written by someone who probably had no idea what she was doing. So I would probably warn against using this as an instruction manual to commit crimes. Other ways to kill people: bare hands and knives. These are quiet, but a gun is more effective. Probably that seems reasonable. That seems intuitive. Poisons, they're good, quiet and effective.
Man,
she does recommend coating your bullets with poison. I don't know if people actually do this or not. That just seems a bit excessive.
Well,
I don't know. I'm not a hitman.
What if you don't? What if you've made a mistake? It turns out actually, wasn't a kill shot. You better hope that you dip that thing in rice.
This is
whatever.
why Rex Ferrell says you got to shoot people from close range and then check their pulse.
Yeah. Look, better be safe than sorry. Hey, you're a professional. Measure twice, kill once, as they say.
Exactly.
So what about
also actually?
Yeah, sorry.
In this bit, in the poisons bit, there are advertisements for other books by Paladin Press, including the Poor Man's James Bond series, where there are instructions given for making different types of poison.
Yeah, they were really asking for it.
I really liked the shout out to Paladin Press. Gee, thanks guys for not publishing the novel I wanted to write, but letting me write Hitman by Rex Ferrell instead.
I wonder how many KGB assassinations she inspired with all this poisoning stuff. I think highly connected. Wasn't Navalny poisoned twice or something? If only they had read Hitman, Rex Ferrell, they might have got him
and shot him as well to make sure.
Yeah. Oh, poor Navalny. Anyways, that's a whole thing. Pretty hectic. Hey, I think there's a lot of amateur hitmen that could learn a lot by reading from Rex Ferrell.
In fact, I would be willing to bet that the number of professional, competent hitmen is directly proportional to the number of people who've read Hitman by Rex Ferrell.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a non-reversible function, I think. Once you read it, that's it. You're now competent in Hitman. You are now compelled to be. It's the necessary course.
Not only is it an instruction manual, but it actually psychologically reorganizes you to make you want to be a hitman. It makes you want to learn how to use and respect an infinite number of potential weapons. There's a bit about dogs. She says dogs are loud and a real problem when you're trying to kill someone and they've got a dog. It's probably true.
Yeah, look, some of the things you're just okay. This seems like the sort of thing somebody could come up with if they had never done it before, you could just, and maybe if, you had read a bunch of crime novels or something, it doesn't seem that far out there. It would have been, I think, a giveaway if it were somebody who was a legit hitman. There would have been something in there that was surprising. You'd be like, oh, wait a second, you could really only have come up with that if you'd actually seen the inside of one of these bits of work. And there was nothing in there like that. It was all just yeah, all right. You've watched The Professional and stuff. Great.
Yeah. The thing is, most of the advice in here seems intuitively sensible. My problem is that I'm not going to trust someone who hasn't done it themselves with information that could get me killed or sent to prison.
Yeah.
Or, God forbid, I fail to kill the person I'm getting paid to kill. I just don't, it all passes, or most of it passes that common sense test, but I don't know how much to trust someone who's not part of the industry.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Outsider, yeah, for sure.
I do like the section Opportunity Knocks, which is about now that you've trained yourself to be a killer and you've got all your equipment, you've got your John Wick concreted over vault full of weapons and passports and things like that in your house. How do you get jobs? How to kill people? And she says,
Craigslist.
it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea to cold call people. Go, hey, do you want someone killed? I'm starting out. And if you've got any easy jobs,
Just
I work cheap.
Man, there's a dude in the co-working space I sometimes go to who is just always hustling, always on cold calls, just like bam, 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 just trying to like sell his shit. It's like that hustle culture, except imagine trying to sell, instead of like, I don't know, like B2B software or something, you're trying to sell hits.
It's assassination services.
Hey, objection handling for hitmen. Like, I know, look, sir, I know you love your wife, but just imagine how much life insurance is worth. Just have you thought of that for a second? Beep, beep.
Don't hang up.
I really did like pay my rent this
when you feel like they're getting away, that's when you offer them the 2-for-1 deal.
All assassination and
just name anyone. I'll kill it.
Oh, today only $9.97 to take out not one but 2 X's. Or
Get
former employers.
50% off your next hit for each referral you make.
Start up an affiliate program for your hitman services. Like bundle up like different packages, like, you know, are you like a disgruntled former employee, or like you know like a I don't know, did you like get the short end of the stick on the divorce? Like, all right, let's try to figure out how to price this thing. What do you reckon, like a disheveled, like down on his luck guy who lost custody in like the divorce proceedings? How much do you reckon that market segment would pay for a hit?
You could do so much with this. So, for example, if you had a podcast and you want to cross-promote, you say, like, everyone who orders a hit gets to be part of the Book Club from Hell Patreon subscriber Discord channel. They get to be part of every Wednesday. Jack and Levi are present on voice chat to chat with patrons.
Maybe like...
And if you order a hit from either of us, you can choose which of us you'd prefer to do the hit. We will record an episode about it. We'll give you a shout out. You can be part of the Patreon feed. All the good stuff.
What about like Hitman meets MLM? Multi-level marketing.
Nice
pyramid of hitmen.
It's like a Ponzi
teaching
scheme
other
of
people how to be hit. Not how to be hitman, but how to get other people to teach other people how to be hitman.
Yeah.
All using Hitman by Rex Ferrell.
And instead of someone just buying a bunch of junk and losing money on it, the person who loses out is the person who actually goes and kills someone.
Shit. Like, who got left with all the bags instead of like being the one holding the bags? You're actually the one who had to go and do like,
who was holding
like,
the bag when they got
like
pulled?
1,000 hits, because you've got to do all of the hits of the people above you.
Oh shit!
Damn it!
I've got to go kill 1,500 people in the next 2 days.
I've got to do it all as a consummate professional whilst the magic school bus is chasing me.
They're also distributed across the globe. It's like, okay, I'm going to fly into Sydney, got 12 people I have to kill there tomorrow. Then I'm going to fly over to Perth, got 15 people in Perth.
Yeah. Sounds hard.
But
it's definitely not
the
a
way
business
that you
model
should be getting
well,
contracts.
is it?
No, it's not. It's not a very scalable profession, is it? Because your income is tied very tightly to the time you put in, isn't it?
And
it's not the sort of thing that can earn a passive income.
Yeah. You
can't passively kill people.
No, you can't. And it'd be really hard to franchise, don't you reckon? Yeah, I mean, but then again,
the 4-hour work week probably isn't applicable to this. How many of these functions can you delegate to like Filipino remote workers?
to delegate to like, some person like on the other side of the planet be like, all right, I want you to
I want you to kill this person with an AR-7.
Take my F-16 fighter jet and go and hunt down. Yeah, this is the description of the school bus. I want him fucking dead.
I want you to kill the magic school bus with this fighter. You do know how to fly a fighter jet, don't you? And you have some hustler like, I don't know, in India or something going like, oh yeah, I can learn that tonight. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah, like Sandeep is
Someone
like deep
who
on
really wants to get that money.
Like hustling.
You're doing it on
Fiverr for like $15. Like, yeah, no, sir, I can get that done. I'll do it in like 30 minutes.
Yeah. You've gone from hiring Ukrainian web developers on Fiverr to trying to get them to do your hits for you.
Yeah, so I guess it's really a solopreneur sort of thing.
Yeah. So we can get to the section about partners. Doesn't have to be solo, but it's always going to be a small team. And you're always going to be working. Like you're not going to become, say, a manager and step back from day-to-day operations. You're always really going to be in there, I think.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle business.
That's one of the things I've learned from reading Hitman.
Yeah. And look, like some people are born to be sheep, and some people are born to be wolves, Jack. A lone wolf.
It's better to live a day as a lion than 1,000 as a sheep, isn't it? Which is why I became a hitman
after
having read Hitman by Rex Ferrell. What was that? Oh yeah, so to get jobs, she says it's good to build your credibility as a bodyguard for someone you trust. And when you've worked as a bodyguard for someone for long enough, having spent 6 months learning how to use every conceivable weapon in the universe and to be a physically dominant specimen and to know hand-to-hand combat, all of these things, you've done your 6-month training course, worked as a great bodyguard for someone for a while, and invariably once you've worked for someone as a bodyguard for long enough, they're going to ask you to kill someone. And when that happens, you got to jump on that opportunity. Go, I was hoping you'd ask me to do that, and I'm ready.
I've been waiting in the wings.
You know what? I
actually
picked up a book recently on this very subject.
Mate, this is Rex's time to shine.
Yeah. She goes over how to vet your employer or prospective employer because you got to trust them because you're taking on a big risk by working with this person. Like in many businesses, it's about risk management. And when you're out there shooting someone in the head with an AR-7, you're taking on a lot of personal risk. This is why you shouldn't take any contract under $30,000. She says there are some people who do it for $100, but you get what you pay for.
You got to be like Sam Bankman-Fried and like figure out your expected outcomes, like weighted by like the probability that they'll happen, and you really need like your upside to be.
Yeah, but you probably should do it a bit better than Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah. Like instead of like stealing money off millions of people, you should just like killed millions of people as a hitman.
Yeah, exactly. You should get Tom Brady to advertise for you. Like, I reckon that
Tom Brady
probably will still help your business. If he hit the Super Bowl starts shouting out your assassination services.
Yeah. Larry David.
So do a Sam Bankman-Fried in that you've got to pay a lot of celebrities and a lot of politicians to promote you, but you don't get caught, I guess. Don't get caught. I guess actually the effective altruism angle, you do that if you want to clean your image.
Yeah.
Say that you're earning all of this money from assassinations so that you can spend it on mosquito nets in malaria zones. That's good for publicity. People like that. So definitely do that, actually. That's not in this book. That's one of my innovations. But effective altruism and contract killing are actually pretty good for each other, I think. And I don't think this link has been explored enough. Anyway,
So Rex, like, how did you think about what you would do for your career? Like, you've chosen such a not a well-worn path, but in fact, quite an interesting and some would say strange profession to pursue in your life? Yes, well, you see, Sam, when I was thinking carefully about what my future would hold, I thought, how can I make the greatest impact? How can I have the most good over the course of my... And I thought, in order to do that, I need to figure out what I'm really good at. And you know what, Sam? I'm really good. I'm the best at shooting people in the back of the head. And I thought, okay, well, as long as
I'm a very violent.
as long as I can earn more money from killing Americans at home, that I can then send that money over to Western Africa to save little Africans with mosquito nets, then like net, it all balances out. I think I'm having a hugely positive impact on the world. I really truly feel like I'm putting a dent in the universe.
Exactly. It was when Rex Ferrell opened up a piece of junk mail and saw that it was from Oxfam talking about poor starving kids in Africa and thought, how can I fix this? How can I get more money that I can send to Oxfam? I'm going to do it with contract killing. This entire venture was actually just aimed at maximizing the amount of money that Rex Ferrell could send to Oxfam to make a difference in the world.
So really, those families should have sued Oxfam.
No, those families should have donated to Oxfam. They should have left Rex Ferrell alone and just been inspired by Rex Ferrell's effective altruism.
Should we move on to it? It's so dumb. So what are the major highlights in the book? What do you reckon? Should we talk about the sex scene?
So there's this bit on getting the job done right.
The like having a girlfriend.
That wasn't... The bit on getting the job done right wasn't that fun. Apart from the end, like part 3, getting a hold on your emotions, that was pretty funny. And this is where it was just getting sillier. Like, you've got this center bit of the book, which is less fun. But then the end of the book is really, really silly, and it's much more fun. So there's a section about how hitmen... So dispelling some common harmful myths about hitmen, okay? So people who don't know, who probably haven't even met a hitman, okay? They have it in their heads that hitmen are emotionless. They're cold. That's not true. So Rex Ferrell points out that hitmen might love animals, or they might love their woman, or the elderly. So they're people like you and me, but what they don't feel is remorse or guilt after killing someone for money.
Just like you and me, Jack.
just like you. They might love the elderly. She used that as a specific example.
Just like helping an old man or an old lady like cross the street, like on your way to your contract.
On the way to a job.
Just trying to help out. Like if I can make somebody's day a little bit better. I feel good when I go to bed.
She's someone's mother. She's someone's grandma. Why wouldn't I help her?
Yeah, but not the bloke I'm about to kill.
Yeah, not if someone paid me to kill her. Then it's different. It's just business.
Traffic controller asks for a hit on the little old lady because she keeps on messing up the traffic.
So there's the section danger, ego, women, and partners is a really good chapter. So this is about the things that can destroy your career quickly. So egos, you've changed. You're a hitman now, and it'd be easier. It'd be easy to brag because you want to brag because you're a macho man, as was laid out earlier. I'll just read this section because this is really funny. I quote, "You two have become different. You recognize that you made some mistakes, but you know what they were, and they will never plague you again. Next time, and you know there will be a next time, there will be no hesitation, no fear. Your experience in facing death head-on has taught you about life. You have the power and ability to stand alone. You no longer need a reason to kill. When the guys all get together and the bullshit starts to flow, you find it hard to listen to their tales of how tough they like to think they are. Their threats to get this person or that become as irritating, yet harmless as a swarm of gnats on a hot summer afternoon. You stifle the urge to tell them how life really is. You control your anger at their pretension of being capable of carrying out the threats they make. You resist the impulse to laugh at the statements they take so seriously. Your friends sense your irritation, but don't understand what has set you apart. You begin to shun social gatherings and bullshit sessions. You spend more time studying and accumulating and testing your tools while you wait for the next job opportunity to present itself. You spend your time studying the blade, and that was my interjection. She didn't write that. So... Oh, this is good. Like the great white shark, you have become a lone predator. Your ego is the greatest burden you carry from this day forth. In this bit, she's basically warning you not to start bragging about killing people, because killing people is really cool, and naturally you want to tell people about it.
Like, I'm a megalodon now.
It will invite undue attention.
I'm a megalodon, and I just want to let everybody know how prehistorically dominant I am. And I can't. I got to bottle it up inside. You know how hard it is to be a contract killer. You know, I've got all these. I have so much pride in my work, and I have. Listen, Julie.
I'm an artist.
Listen, Julie. I've got. There's just this inner flower inside of me that just needs to come out, and it's just so hard. There's so much stigma these days against contract killers, and I just want to come out and just tell my family who I really am inside. Just let them know this is me. This is me. All right, Mom. This is me. I'm a contract killer. All right. You don't like it? Fine. If you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Fuck you.
You're saying to the cashier at McDonald's. She's like, listen, just order your McNuggets. I don't care. you're shouting into the booth at the drive-thru at KFC.
Just having a mental breakdown. Your inability. I kill people and I'm good at it. I just want to tell the world, man. Start a social.
I've mastered every weapon in the universe, and I respect them.
I've mastered every possible object that could conceivably be considered a weapon in all of the multiverse. And I think if this is how you feel and you're a contract hitman, maybe you need to start like a social media campaign, maybe like a GoFundMe or something to like destigmatize, try to sign up for DGR status so you can get like tax exemption, as such like, Australia for a better future for hitmen and hitmen adjacent workers. If
you're in the US, the Southern Poverty Law Center might take you on as a member of an oppressed group. I reckon hitmen.
That's the next big social move.
They have a really hard time. They're not allowed. People don't want to hear them talking about their job. If they start talking about killing people for money, they hear hurtful things like, please stop talking about murdering people. You're making me uncomfortable.
But you know what that is?
Or I'm about to call the police.
You know what that is, Jack? That is just another fucking form of microaggression against hitmen. One of the most vulnerable species of people in our society in 2024. Nobody's sticking up for the contract killer these days, man.
Exactly. When I'm walking past a kindergarten and I'm telling the children through the fence about my latest hit, and one of the kindergarten staff comes up and asks me to stop telling 4-year-olds about asphyxiating people with plastic bags, how's that meant to make? How am I meant to feel about that? Huh?
The world's against me, man. I was born at the wrong society. Born at the wrong time.
I was born before the coming golden age of piracy, when I would be able to do all of these things and get all of the social credit that I deserve.
We should do you want to cover the girlfriend bit when we should start to wrap it up? So
Yeah,
wrap it
up. Because it's getting late here and I'm tired.
Yeah. The part on women. So the part on women was one of the bits that made me think, like, I just don't know how anyone can take this seriously. So I'll quote a few bits from the women's section. Because of their uncanny ability to get into places and situations a man might find hard to duplicate, because of their deceitful, game-playing natures, and because a woman can be twice as vicious as a woman can be a better hired executioner than a man. Fortunately for the world, a woman usually makes only one man her target, and the nesting instinct quickly takes her off the street and ties her down to the little world of babies, laundry, and housework she creates and protects for her own. Unfortunately, even a hitman cannot deny that what women have to offer is a basic necessity. So this section is about how do you deal with women as a hitman? Because women, if you're a hitman and a woman decides that she's going to have babies with you, she's going to destroy everything that's between her and having those babies. And if your job as a hitman, she feels, is interfering with her ability to have babies with you, then she might just out you as a hitman to the authorities, you know? You got to be careful. And women, they're wily. High EQ, wily, game-playing creatures. You as a man, you're good at stuff like killing, rotating 3D objects in your head, reading maps. But when it comes to emotional stuff, a woman's just she's gonna outplay you. They're dangerous.
Boss. Oh no, I've got bad news. So, this broad that I met down at the cafeteria last Wednesday, I think she's put a hit. She's put a hit on my heart. Cue
a baby hit.
Cue romantic love novella about a man who tries to flee the
Hitman by This is the buried romantic subplot in the novel that Hitman was supposed to be. So probably the one other section that I really want to read is it's about women again. It's about partners. I quote, "Ironically, the best professional partner you can have is a woman, but she has to be a full-time partner and she has to have the following qualifications. 1, good looks and a seductive attitude. 2, superior intelligence. 3, no children or close family ties. 4, total dedication to you.
Wait,
5,
sorry, I thought
a totally vicious nature towards outsiders."
What are we reading? Like some PUA stuff right now? Or is this still the Hitman book? Is this like?
This feels like red pill women.
Yeah.
6, no conscience. 7, the mental and physical capability of defending herself and pulling her own weight. From such a woman, you can expect 1, the ability to get almost any mark based on her good looks, seductiveness, and willingness to go to any lengths to help you. 2, the intelligence to help you plan successful jobs and provide you with continuously stimulating conversation and companionship. 3, sex on a regular basis without danger of blowing your cover.
Not 4, the only thing I'll be blowing.
Unflinching backup due to her emotional attachment to you. So, Rex Farrell acknowledges that few of these women exist, unfortunately. But if you can find one, then make her your co-founder in your assassination startup. She's perfect.
I heard it's hard dating in Hobart, man. Imagine being like Hitman as well. I feel like it's a difficult world.
Exactly. Imagine that also being on your list of demands.
It must be okay with me being a contract killer.
It'd be Hitman. She calls this person the HMIW, Hitman's ideal woman. Mill. Currently looking for Mill. Anyway, the rest of the book is not. It's just more of the same. Like, I don't have beyond increasingly stupid, made-up scenarios about mastering every weapon in the universe. I don't have that much more to say about this book. Would I recommend it? Probably not. It's the story behind it's funny, but it's not that good a book.
Did you want to talk about? I've got to jump up really quick for like a minute. Do you want to also have a chat about censorship? Or all right,
Yeah.
I'll just be like 1 minute.
I don't have... So my thoughts on censorship, I can't pretend are particularly consistent or coherent. Part of me feels that it's fairly sensible to restrict access to information about how to make bombs, how to kill people and things like that. But another part of me quite likes that an organization like Paladin Press existed, which would not only reject people's crime novels and ask them to write something that is at least masquerading as an instruction manual on how to kill people, but that they would also defend that behavior in court and get upset when their insurance company wouldn't let them defend themselves on First Amendment grounds in the United States in federal court against charges that their books inspired several triple murders. But most of my discomfort around censorship comes from the question of who is deciding what is to be censored and on what basis. Much censorship, particularly in the United States, is on the basis of obscenity, which I don't personally find particularly objectionable. So, as a reflection of my own biases, I'm not a big fan of censorship on the basis of obscenity. Censorship, I guess where I would fairly consistently say that I think things should be censored is when there's incitement to violence defined fairly narrowly, in that it's a combination of saying that you want to commit violence against a specific person at a specific time, a specific place, when it's really planning a concrete act of violence against someone. I don't really have a problem with censoring something like that. Censoring something like Hitman by Rex Ferrell, I think it's just such a silly book that I don't see a reason for censoring this. It's also, I guess, there's the difference between social censorship and then legal censorship using the state apparatus. I'm pretty comfortable with people socially saying we find it unacceptable if you disseminate materials like this, or if you're advocating for materials
or
like this
within a particular community, I suppose, maybe having their own standards.
Yeah,
but like at a
but when it's also the state using the state apparatus of violence to not allow people access to certain forms of information, that's when I get a lot more nervous.
like prefer to have like...
Right, which sort of things would you be comfortable with having censored, and in which ways? So I just said that a lot of the time in the United States through history, I think it's also the case in Australia, it's often obscenity that has something become a banned book, which I don't. I don't agree with that. I don't have a huge problem with obscenity.
Yeah,
that might be as a result of my degenerate liberal social and sexual mores.
Yeah, that's why like 100 Days of Sodom or whatever, 120 Days of Sodom. Like I think there are like reasonable things to ban, but like like very explicit and presumably true instructions about like how to make certain like
make nerve gas or something,
like specific things. Like obviously like any, I think it's called CSAM, just like like child sexual abuse material, like censoring that stuff, censoring anything that probably like it's hard with like ideological or political stuff, but if it's like full on like a call to arms, and especially the more concrete the call to arms is, like with regards to like attacking like certain groups or something, like like say like targeting a particular ethnic group, and like it's a tough one, isn't it? Because sort of by default, I would like there to be as much openness as possible, and for the government to, in particular the state, not to play the moral arbiter of like what ideas people should get exposed to. And then but then you can like come up with these examples of like certain classes of material where it's like, I think like most people can understand why those things are like contraband, and would probably agree with them, like into living in like a society that has like some civility. Yeah, it's kind of it's there's those really obvious examples, but I can't think of any that would be like more like close to the line. You know, like can't think of anything in particular off the top of my head. But there might be things out there that we just haven't come across that like really play like super close to the line of like where I would find it. Like, is it objectionable, or is it something that should be like publishable?
We could do an episode on the Anarchist's Cookbook, which we have had requested a few times. Of course, I'm not sure what the legal status of it is in Czech Republic. I'm pretty sure it's banned in Australia, in which case you would have to not read it and do an episode on it.
Yeah.
And depending on the legal status here, I would maybe or maybe not read it for the episode on it. But that could be something that would be close to the line, because apparently there's a bunch of like actual instructions on how to make bombs. Shit like that.
And then there's an interesting distinction between like consuming a piece of content and distributing it. You know, it's like like something comparable might be like consumption of drugs versus like if you get caught with drugs. Like in Australia, depending on what drug it is, obviously, like the drug laws are changing so fast. But like, I don't know, say like cocaine or something like that. You might get caught with like slapped with a personal possession charge, but you also might be slapped with like like an intent to traffic or something like that. And I could imagine there being like different like penalties for like if you're the distributor or the publisher of like this stuff versus if you're just like a consumer of it, which I think like makes sense, right? Like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. Like, I guess the Anarchist Cookbook, we could always have it like where I don't actually read it, and then like I can ask you questions about it. If I don't know if that would be an interesting one. Like, actually, here's us trying to talk.
Or we just read it in the draft.
Or I just come to check and read it.
Yeah.
Why are you going to check? So I can read the Anarchist Cookbook without having the dogs of the AFP on my scent.
Well, it would attract undue attention to your assassination startup. You don't need that sort of attention at the moment, especially when you're getting started.
I've got one other question about this stuff. Sorry, just before going, like, just the last word on that. It's like, I don't know. I guess it's kind of, there's probably no hard and fast rule. There's probably not. You've probably the reason why this stuff is like kind of a bit, like some things still have to get played out in like the actual like court system or whatever. It's because it's an evolutionary system, and like we're evolving. Like, okay, for example, you can't ban an instruction on a weapon that doesn't exist yet. Like, so how to build a weapon that doesn't exist yet. But like once that weapon is created, like then or that object. And then whether or not it's a weapon, all these sorts of things. So yeah, I don't know. So the other thing I wanted to ask you a question about was, what about like video games are pretty like, there's some very like there's literally like Hitman, the video game, where you're in an emulated environment.
Hitman is so good.
Of like you're practicing in a virtual environment how to carry out hits on people.
The thing with Hitman is it's just, and this goes for video games in general, like it just, even the experience of firing a gun is so profoundly different to what it is in a video game. Like there's just, sure, it's a representation of killing people, but it's a representation that is so removed as well from at least the physical components that would go into killing someone. Again, is out of my wheelhouse, as I haven't yet killed anyone.
Yeah.
But even things like in a video game, running is an effortless activity, whereas in real life, like if you run as much as you do in Skyrim in real life, like go out and try that. It's like running a straight line for 2.5 hours and see how you fare.
You're not going to go straight into the cave and start like battling people with your broadsword. Like you're going to be exhausted.
Yeah, it's so physically different. It's also in Hitman. Oh, it was so good in the. I'm pretty sure they patched it out in Hitman. It used to be this bug. You could throw a suitcase at someone, and the suitcase would like track them around corners and things like that. I'm pretty sure they patched out the heat-seeking suitcase, which is a weapon that you will need to have mastered. But it's things like that that make me not particularly concerned about violent video games, because it's so silly. Even realistic depictions of violence in a game are just such a silly representation of life. Maybe that's just because I play a lot of games and I'm completely burned out when it comes to virtual depictions of violence.
Yeah, fair. Last question that we wrote down, like other than just like general questions, but like, what are your thoughts on? Yes, what was it again? Oh yeah, like people being fascinated with like crime. You know, like even just the whole idea that like crime novels is like a huge thing, and then people are like obsessed with you know, like TV series like Dexter. I think that that plays on that.
And then like true crime podcasts.
Yeah, like, and then there's this there's like a fandom wiki. I can't remember which one it is. Which is like dedicated to like all the different like mass murderers and stuff. So you can just like see,
or people like women specifically sending Ted Bundy letters in prison,
and women sending like the Boston Marathon bombers. Like wasn't he on the cover of Rolling Stones or something as well? Rolling Stone, like
that wouldn't surprise me. That seems like the sort of like bourgeois play at being edgy thing that Rolling Stone would do.
So like, what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
It is kind of weird. I suspect a lot of it comes from the fact that you think about what's salient for a person, and threats of physical violence are highly salient to people. And that probably goes a long way towards making representations of violence fascinating people, because there is salience attached to violence, even if it is just like a text representation or an image representation of it. That's probably a lot of it. A lot of it too is just, if you live a very safe life, that sort of danger is also highly salient. That said, even in apparently it's like in Mexico, in the parts of Mexico where there is a lot of drug violence, they'll have like songs and things like that about drug violence. So I guess it's not just being safe. It's probably, humans are really fascinated by violence, and violence gets our attention really easily, even if it's not, I guess, quote, real violence. Even if it's a representation of violence, it immediately gets our attention. Both probably because of the fear of violence being inflicted upon us. And I think just a lot of people find violence exciting, even separate from that danger component.
I reckon there's also like a substantial component of it where like people, how would you put it, like they're curious, right? And it's like, they're not necessarily bad people or whatever. They're just like, oh, what did this guy actually do? And it's like, once you're reading the Wikipedia article or whatever, you're like, oh, I can't look away. Like, what?
Yeah.
As if this person did that. It's like crazy. It's crazy stuff. There might also be, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of reasons why people look into it. And it's a really weird part of like human psychology.
Yeah, but pretty consistently. We do find violence fascinating. It expresses itself differently in different people. It's funny, like, violence obsessions for men and women, broadly speaking, seem to express slightly differently, in that for women, I guess particularly true crime podcasts are really popular.
Really? Yeah,
particularly
right.
among women. Yeah, and a lot of it's more about the the personal journey of those involved in some sort of violent act.
The extreme character
Whereas
situation.
male,
yeah, interesting.
yeah, whereas male depictions of violence is just fucking like watching Syrian war footage or something like that. It's just seeing people get
Doom
shot
3 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
But
interesting.
People really, really find violence exciting. They really like it.
Yeah.
Can't get enough of it.
Yeah. So, all right. So, I guess wind down questions like, do you want to talk about? Let's would we recommend it and any shout outs and stuff?
Yeah, I said earlier, I probably wouldn't recommend it. Like, it's the story behind it's pretty
I'm
funny.
Go in for the
but
tombstone pile driver of an insult. I guess it's the worst insult that I can come up with. It's just I just found it really boring. It was kind of funny, here and there.
It's funny to talk to you about it, but the book's not
the first couple of pages, you're like, oh yeah, this is kind of dumb, and then the bit about sex, and then a little bit here and there, some of the stories that are just they're just what would you say? Just cliche, just really cliche stories. So if you want to actually read a crime novel, just go and read an actual thriller. Don't read this.
Yeah, which to be fair, this woman apparently wanted to write a thriller, but Paladin Press wanted Hitman instead.
She got gypped, man. She had her creative spark put out by Paladin Press.
Yeah. Shout outs. Shout out to everyone on Patreon. Shout out to Benji, Moog, Jaden, Hamp, Rowan, Diogo, BD Hoffs, Pavlik, Fake Gamerboy, Seabell, Jace, Yutz, Hylick, Nick B, J-Man, Not San Marzano, Supremacy, Abraxas, and at Double Speed. Massive shout out to all of those people who are stopping us from losing money on this podcast. Who's the biggest spender? Who's my favorite lifetime? That's Nick B blowing the competition away. And then Abraxas at doubles. Oh,
really? Wow.
Wow.
I expected a lot more from Not Selling the Marzano.
You start having a go at Patreon.
I was expecting there to be 60 million Solana.
I have no idea what the Solana
Whatever
price
it is, I'm sure it's in the fucking hole. I hope it's not. I hope if any of you bought Solana that you are doing great. Yeah, great. Shout out to the Patreon. And is there any other important announcements and stuff?
Announcement. If you join the Patreon, you can have weekly chats where Levi and I are present. San Marzano promises to do some shitcoin trading. And the next one, which I'm really looking forward to. Live shitcoin
watch me
trading.
Figure out how to just make a bunch of money as quickly as I can.
Watch him make lots of money and not lose any of it. I'm really excited for it.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't have more to say.
It was nice to read a book that had substantially less racial supremacy in it.
Yeah, no racism in this book, actually. Shout out to Rex Ferrell. Not a single bit of racism.
No racism, no
book.
anti-Semitism. Just a little sprinkling of chauvinism, but because it was written by a girl or a woman, I feel like
that was a woman trying to write.
Yeah. I actually,
in which case it's fine.
And you also wonder how much of it was she enjoying writing that part for herself? a little something in there, a little bit of salt and pepper, a little bit of 50 Shades in there. 50 Shades meets Hitman.
Yeah, maybe it was an Ayn Rand situation where Rex Ferrell's just writing in her particular kinks.
As a magic school bus kink. Likes to kill people.
Magic School Bus expansion kink.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.